The crowd stopped cheering, and 30 fighters watched as River Phoenix and Johnny Depp were told actors can't fight in an underground basement where real blood stains the concrete floor. Downtown Los Angeles, July 1992. Beneath a warehouse in the industrial district, an unmarked basement serves as Fight Club Zero, an illegal venue where street fighters settle disputes through bare-knuckle combat that operates beyond police jurisdiction or athletic commission oversight. This isn't organized sport with referees and medical staff. It's primal violence, where men prove themselves through pain tolerance and the ability to inflict damage on opponents who fight for money, respect, or simple survival. The basement reeks of sweat, blood, and decades of testosterone-fueled violence. Concrete walls bear stains from previous fights, while a makeshift ring constructed from rope and metal posts occupies the center of a space lit by harsh industrial bulbs that cast unforgiving shadows across faces marked by years of physical confrontation. River Phoenix, 21 years old, descends narrow stairs into this underground world, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that suddenly feel inadequate among men whose scars tell stories of genuine violence. He's here because a stunt coordinator friend mentioned that understanding real fighting, not choreographed screen combat, would inform his portrayal of characters who face actual physical danger. Beside him, Johnny Depp studies the brutal environment with characteristic intensity, his own casual attire reflecting the serious purpose that brought them to witness authentic combat rather than sanitized entertainment. At 28, Johnny approaches this experience with respect for the desperation and courage that drives men to risk permanent injury for small amounts of money. This is what actual fighting looks like, River observes quietly, watching participants whose bodies show the accumulated damage of repeated brutal encounters. No safety protocols, no stunt coordinators, no medical teams standing by. Pure survival instinct, Johnny agrees, recognizing the difference between theatrical violence designed to entertain audiences and genuine combat, where losing means physical destruction rather than poor reviews. Their presence attracts attention from regulars who recognize outsiders immediately, their unmarked faces, expensive clothes, and obvious discomfort marking them as tourists in a world where physical violence represents daily reality rather than career choice. The evening's fights proceed with savage efficiency. Men climb into the ring to settle personal disputes or earn desperately needed cash through willingness to absorb punishment that would hospitalize most people. No rules govern these encounters except survival and the unspoken code that unconsciousness or submission ends the violence. "Your friend was right to bring you here," says Marcus Washington, a former professional boxer whose career ended through injuries that make licensed competition impossible. Most Hollywood fighting looks impressive, but bears no relationship to what happens when people actually try to hurt each other. River and Johnny watch with growing understanding of the gap between choreographed screen violence and authentic combat, where technique, pain tolerance, and psychological fortitude determine who walks away capable of walking. That's when Tank Morrison approaches their group. Morrison represents underground fighting at its most dangerous, a 35-year-old street fighter whose massive frame and scarred features speak to decades of winning brutal encounters against opponents who entered the ring believing size and aggression guaranteed victory. His undefeated record in illegal fighting circuits makes him legendary among men who measure worth through ability to inflict and withstand extreme physical punishment. He moves through the crowd with predatory confidence, his presence causing other fighters to step aside not from fear, but from professional respect for someone whose survival depends on accurate assessment of threats and immediate violent response to challenges. "Well, well," Morrison says, his voice carrying the rough authority earned through years of successful violence. "Look what we got here tonight. A couple of Hollywood pretty boys slumming it in the real world." River and Johnny feel the immediate attention of everyone nearby, conversations stopping as regulars recognize potential entertainment in the form of outsiders being confronted by the basement's most dangerous inhabitant. Morrison studies them with calculating attention, his scarred face showing amusement at their obvious discomfort in surroundings where their celebrity status provides no protection from men who respond to perceived weakness through immediate physical aggression. "You boys here to research your next movie roles?" Morrison continues, his tone carrying contempt for people whose understanding of violence comes from scripts rather than experience. "Think you're gonna learn something about real fighting by watching from the sidelines?" The question hangs in the air, loaded with challenge, other fighters gathering closer to witness how two entertainment industry professionals handle direct confrontation from someone whose expertise involves genuine combat rather than theatrical performance. River responds carefully, recognizing the dangerous territory they've entered. "We're here to observe and learn. We respect what happens in this ring and the courage it requires." Morrison laughs, but there's no humor in the sound. "Respect? You think watching from safe distance teaches you anything about what it feels like to have someone trying to break your face?" 6 seconds pass as Morrison's challenge develops, the basement falling silent except for the sound of breathing and distant traffic above ground where normal people live lives that don't require proving themselves through voluntary submission to extreme violence. "Tell you what, pretty boys," Morrison says with predatory satisfaction, "you want to understand real fighting? Step into that ring with me. Let's see if actors can fight when there's no stunt doubles or special effects to protect you." The basement explodes with anticipation as 30 fighters realize they're about to witness Hollywood celebrities facing authentic combat against someone whose survival has always depended on his ability to destroy opponents quickly and efficiently. River and Johnny exchange glances, understanding they've entered a situation that could result in serious injury or worse, but also recognizing that refusing would validate every assumption about Hollywood actors being incapable of backing up their screen personas with genuine courage. "We didn't come here to fight," Johnny says diplomatically, trying to de-escalate without appearing cowardly. "We came to understand and respect what you do." Morrison steps closer, his massive frame casting shadows over both actors. "But that's the thing about real fighting. You don't get to choose when it happens. In the real world, violence finds you whether you're looking for it or not." The crowd presses closer, sensing blood and entertainment as two different worlds collide in basement darkness where normal social rules don't apply and physical dominance determines hierarchy. Then River Phoenix does something unexpected. Instead of backing down or attempting further diplomatic resolution, he takes a step forward, closing distance with Morrison rather than retreating from obvious danger.
"You're right," River says quietly, his voice carrying surprising strength despite the obvious physical mismatch. "We don't understand what real fighting feels like, but we're not here to pretend we do or to disrespect what you've accomplished." Morrison's expression shifts slightly, not expecting thoughtful response rather than fear or false bravado from someone he'd already categorized as privileged celebrity seeking brief excitement before returning to protected Hollywood lifestyle. River continues, his confidence growing despite the dangerous situation. "You've survived in a world where weakness gets you destroyed. That requires courage and skill we can't fake or learn from watching movies. We came here because we want our work to honor that reality rather than trivialize it." Johnny steps forward, supporting his friend while addressing Morrison directly. "You could easily hurt us both, and everyone here knows it. But proving that wouldn't teach us anything except that we're not fighters, which we already know." The silence that follows carries different energy than before. Not anticipation of violence, but recognition that these young men are engaging with genuine respect rather than tourist curiosity or condescending observation of poverty-driven desperation. Marcus Washington breaks the tension, his former professional experience providing authority to mediate between legitimate fighters and visitors whose intentions appear honorable rather than exploitative. "Tank," Marcus says quietly, "they're not here to mock what we do. They're trying to understand so they can represent it accurately instead of making us look like animals for entertainment." Other fighters nod, some recognizing that Hollywood portrayals of underground fighting typically focus on sensational violence without acknowledging the economic desperation and personal honor that drives men to risk everything in illegal competitions. Morrison studies both actors for a long moment, his expression showing calculation rather than immediate aggression as he reassesses their presence and intentions. "You really want to understand what this feels like?" Morrison asks, his tone shifting from threatening to genuinely curious. River nods. "We want to understand enough to portray characters who face real violence with authenticity and respect." Morrison gestures toward the ring. "Then step in there, not to fight me, that would just get you killed, but to feel what it's like when someone's actually trying to hurt you, even if it's controlled." What follows isn't the brutal beatdown everyone expected, but an educational demonstration where Morrison shows River and Johnny the difference between choreographed screen combat and authentic fighting technique, allowing them to experience controlled versions of strikes that would cause serious damage at full power. The basement watches with growing respect as both actors absorb painful lessons about real combat without complaining or asking for easier demonstrations, proving their commitment to understanding rather than simply surviving brief excitement. By evening's end, Morrison and other fighters treat River and Johnny as honored guests rather than unwelcome outsiders, recognizing their genuine desire to represent underground fighting culture accurately rather than exploit it for dramatic entertainment. Years later, both actors speak about Fight Club Zero as transformative rather than simply educational, a lesson about earning respect through demonstrated willingness to face authentic challenges rather than expecting special treatment based on celebrity status. Morrison becomes a consultant for films involving underground fighting, specifically recommending River and Johnny for roles requiring authentic combat knowledge because he witnessed their character under genuine pressure and knows they possess integrity to represent street fighting culture accurately.
6 seconds in an underground basement in 1992. One moment when two young actors chose understanding over safety, respect over entertainment. One choice that transformed potential violence into education and proved that real courage sometimes means facing your limitations honestly rather than pretending capabilities you don't possess. The night that showed authentic strength isn't about winning fights, it's about respecting people whose survival depends on violence while acknowledging your own privileged distance from that brutal reality.